Good morning, everyone present here. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to this webinar on food recovery, a business perspective, hosted by AABN. This is the 113th webinar organized by AABN. I take this opportunity to express my deep appreciation to you all for honoring us by being here. It's gratifying to note that the agenda of today's webinar covers a wide range of future relevant topics, and we have in our midst our distinguished speaker to share his experience in specific area of specialty. I extend a very warm welcome to Mr. Raju Narsing Rao for coming here and willing to impart his expertise to our community. Welcome to you all for responding to our call and being here. Engaging in food recovery is a straightforward and uplifting way to respond to a variety of difficult problems. By reducing disposal cost, improving worksite sanitation, food recovery can provide direct and substantial benefits for participating enterprises. By implementing recovery programs, food sector businesses can reduce the amount of material that enter into the waste stream, provide nutritious meals for hungry people in their communities, and minimize the environmental burden associated with agriculture production, food disposal, and waste. Food recovery also serves as an uncontroversial way to be a socially responsible business, make the company green and more sustainable, and garner good will among the community and with potential customers. Sustainable management of food is a systematic approach that seeks to reduce wasted food and its associated impacts over the entire life cycle, starting with the use of natural resources, manufacturing, sales, and consumption, and ending with decisions on recovery or final disposal. It is high time that the world woke up to the benefits which can accrue at such a small cost if we take to food loss and waste reduction seriously. We need to move to action based on a clear understanding of science and context-specific interventions. Mr. Raju Narsing Rao, our guest speaker today, will provide a snapshot of where we are today and how to prepare for what's coming in the years ahead. Mr. Raju Narsing Rao, with his combination of academic knowledge and practical know-how, will take us through the specific challenge and inventive ways to overcome them. I would like to welcome and introduce to you Mr. Raju Narsing Rao, founder, Extra Plus Learning and Consulting, to this interactive business networking webinar. Raju Narsing Rao is a social entrepreneur, author, and speaker. He is the founder of the not-for-profit Forum for Food Recovery, an organization involved in advocacy and providing solutions for food waste and recovery management. He is a global ambassador for GPM, Green Project Management, an organization that advocates sustainability with project management. He is a consultant for net zero and other sustainability initiatives and often speaks on the subject. Raju has spent more than 2 decades in engineering, construction, commissioning, and project management of process plants. He has been an entrepreneur in the plastic industry and has been involved in developing process from lab scale to commercial production. He has been a trainer, consultant, and coach for 2 decades and has been involved in the development of many standards in project management. He often writes for professional journals and is the co-author of 2 books on project management. He has been a speaker in many global conferences and seminars. Raju also dabbles in writing fiction. He is a distinguished Toastmaster and has started and coached clubs. Raju's interests are in cooking, running, cycling, and listening to music. With a guest speaker with distinguished experience, I'm not going to speak because I would like him to take over. As we discuss different emerging views and innovations in the industry, the opportunities and challenges, I believe today will be a day of learning for each one of us. Hope you have an engaging day that is beneficial for the future of your careers and the industry at large. Thank you, sir. And over to you, Mr. Raju.
Okay. I hope you can all hear me.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So I'll just share my screen now. Is it all visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. So, good morning, namaskar, and vanakkam to all of you. It's a great opportunity, and thank you very much for permitting to come and speak to all of you on a topic which caught my interest a few years back. I had spent a lot of time in engineering and project management and as an entrepreneur also. And then last couple of years, for three years as to be precise, I got into this subject of food recovery. Actually, I started doing the work of collecting food, excess food, and sending it over to charitable institutions. This is how I started off understanding this food recovery. There used to be people around in Chennai where they have suddenly excess food, usually small parties, 20, 25 people, and they suddenly will don't know what to do about it. So I had somehow they got hold of my number. I'd put my number somewhere and I used to get calls. And that's how I started off. And then I used to collect them and deliver it to the charitable institutions. That's how I started off. And then I did a little bit of survey on trying to understand how to cut food waste in weddings, marriages, and all that. Okay. And then I realized that when I went into the subject and I did a Google search and started looking at the internet, there's a huge amount of information on this. Food recovery was a big subject, and a subject which probably gives you a lot of information on everything. What's it all about, the laws, the different ways, the statistics, and the technology, everything was there available. And yet I found that the same figure of food waste was being quoted for last couple of years. Every time they keep saying that 1/3 of the world's food is getting wasted. The figure never comes down. Okay, it never comes to 20% or 10% or something. It's always 1/3. I don't know how. The point is that probably nothing much is being done about it. Only now people are getting serious about it. Some countries are, some countries aren't. And sadly, our country is not one of them which is very serious about it. Working in the fringes only. So that's the reason why I started looking at it. How can you make this more interesting rather than a charitable act? We all know, I think it's all there in our culture, that food should not be wasted. Okay, we're pretty much good on that, and most of us do not waste food. And any excess food which is there, we give it to charity. That's also very well understood, and we are doing it in different ways, various ways we do it as part of our way of working, way of living, everything, right? So I think we understand the charity part, the donation part very well. Most of us are doing it. But do we understand that this particular act, this particular thing, the food recovery, that is the food wastage that's happening, what effect it has in our economics, in the environment, and how can we put it to better use? How does it affect the economy? And how, as we as professionals and entrepreneurs, can actually benefit from this particular opportunity? So that's what I'm going to talk about. Okay. So this, I'm just setting the context here to tell you that my focus will be on trying to understand how to use this information that's available to us for own purpose in whatever way we can. Okay. So the agenda for today would be two parts. The first is I would talk a little bit about the food wastage problem itself, why there's a problem, and the various methods of food recovery and its management, and the broader context or broader subject of sustainability and social responsibility, which is gaining a lot of interest and ground now today. Okay. And the second part would be, what is it that we can get out as professionals? What is it for me, WIFM, and some little bit of ideas and projects and examples by which you can relate to many of the topics, and you can find out that your way of looking at it and see whether anything of that fits your perspective, whether you are able to do something about it, the way you understand in your work, in your profession, or your background and all that. Okay. So essentially two parts. First is about the problem itself and what it is all about. And second is how does it help us? Okay. So let's get ahead on that. So the food wastage problem. Okay. What is the problem here actually? So let me start with a question. Okay. what proportion of the world's food production is wasted? You can write in the chat board A, B, or C, or the figure. I would request you to give an answer in the chat board. A, B, or C, what proportion of the world's food is wasted? How much? Okay. Somebody has mentioned 30, 20, A. Okay. Right. Let's wait for about a couple of seconds more so that everybody gets a chance to answer this. 30 A. Right. Pretty good. Pretty good. 20%. Okay. So the answer is actually 1/3, nearer to 30% A. Right. This is what it is. And I think I mentioned this also in the beginning. 1/3 of the world's food production is wasted around the world if you take the total. And in some countries, it's even more. It's 40%. For example, in the US, it's 40%. Okay. Even more than 30%. And then what proportion of the world goes hungry or are malnourished? What proportion of the world goes hungry or are malnourished? This is actually the hunger problem. Okay. Many of you have answered 15%. One has answered C, Preetish. C, okay. Okay, the answer to this question is what Pritish has mentioned. C, 11% actually. Around 11% is what is the amount, the proportion of the world which is hungry or malnourished. When they say hungry, it means malnourished also, The word hunger is including that. Okay, right. So what does it mean? What does it mean? Found out that if you save 25% of whatever you're wasting, the food that is wasting, okay, this is something which is very interesting to understand. 25% or 1/4 of whatever we are wasting food, if that is given to the hungry people, you can solve the hunger problem straight away. You know, so seems very simple, isn't it? It seems very simple. What's the problem? I mean, we are wasting so much of food and we don't even have to save the whole lot. We save only 25%. And then that is enough to solve the problem, hunger problem. And nobody will be hungry. And pretty straightforward, but it's not happening. It's not happening. And that is exactly what we are trying to find out, why it's not happening, why it's not right. So is it because of economics? Is it because of political situations? Is it because of the fact that people are not doing anything about not wasting food or recovering food? This is what we're going to look at. Okay. Actually, the answer is a combination of all these. Okay. So that's the paradox. That's the paradox. On one hand, you have a lot of food, enough for everybody, and some people are even obese or overweight. Okay. But at the same time, you have hunger. So how do you match the two? That's one of the issues that we have. And that continues. Part of it, we are doing it by recycling it back, sending the food back into the people who are need it. Like the example I just said, that excess food goes to charitable institutions and all that. A lot of organizations are doing that. Okay, it's part of the problem is getting solved there. Okay. But there's also another issue to it. Apart from this, is one issue is the hunger and malnutrition part. There's one side of the story. Second is that the environment, the food waste that goes to the landfill finally generates methane, greenhouse gases. Okay, and the amount of food waste that comes out of that greenhouse gases comes out is as high as what is being generated by China, US, and probably the similar to what we are doing it in India. So if global food waste was a country, it would be the third largest greenhouse gas emitter after the US and China. That's the quantum that we're talking about. And if you see in terms of proportion, about 6 to 8% of greenhouse gases, all greenhouse gases comes from food losses and waste. Okay, there are other areas which are substantially more, but food ones is about 6 to 8%. And in a sense, the production itself generates a lot of greenhouse gases, but then we need the food to live. So there's no compromise on that. We need to produce the food, but we can at least save the waste. We do not waste it. So that is one particular situation. And the third part is that the same wastage that you're talking about can produce energy, either as biogas or biofuel. Now, this is becoming very important in terms of global warming, climate change, and all that, where fossil fuels are getting now slowly replaced by other types of clean energy, renewable energy, and so on and so forth. So you realize that the food waste problem is not just one angle of hunger and malnutrition, but it also has other effects like environment and the energy part also. Okay, right. So what is the solution to the problem? Solution to the problem is the food recovery part. What can we do about food recovery? How do you manage the food recovery systems? What is it currently now, and all this, what we're going to see now? Okay, right. The second part of the talk here, food recovery and management. So here we need to go a little bit technical to the whole thing. In a broad sense, the word food waste includes food wastage of all kinds in a broad sense. But when you look at particular terminology, there's a difference between what is described as food loss and food waste. So typically, food loss occurs at the beginning of the value chain during production, handling and storage, processing and packaging from the farm till it reaches the particular distribution area, okay, the market. And then from the market till the consumption point, it is called food waste. Okay, so if you see the definitions mentioned there, the first food loss is the decrease in edible mass throughout the part of supply chain that specifically leads to edible food consumption, including production, post-harvest, and processing. So all the stages before in the entire cycle, the chain of the supply chain which is there, right, starting from the farm up to the table, also called sometimes farm to fork. The first three parts are the food loss, and second part is the food waste. So why are we distinguishing between the two? Distinguishing because the way we address these two issues could be different. The way we address these two issues are different, whether it's the food loss or whether it's the food waste. For example, if you take the developed countries, there is more problem at the latter part, distribution, market, and consumption. There's more problem there. Okay, in the developed countries, the rich, which means they waste more food at the table, at the restaurants, at the time of eating, at the homes, at the distribution stage, at the supermarkets. They waste more food there compared to what they do during production, handling and storage. The reverse happens in case of developing countries. It's much higher in the earlier part of the cycle and lower at the consumption and distribution market stage. So this is the reason why we are trying to understand also what is food loss and food waste in order to treat them as two different categories so that we can address the solution for that easily. Okay. So if you see India, and I'm taking the case of India and US because these are two countries which I'm quite familiar with, you find that the wastage that takes place at the restaurant or at the wedding is there. It's there at a wedding. If you go to a wedding, you find there are some people wasting food, and a restaurant they order more and they don't eat the whole thing. All that is there. That is the consumption stage, but it is not as high as what you see in the US, for example. In US, for example, the portion size itself is so large when they order, they give the food suitable for 2 or 3 people. So invariably, the person eats only what the person can eat, only one person, the rest goes to the dustbin. Okay. So there's a problem starting from portion size itself, which is not a problem in India. The portion size is never so big. Okay. So this is an example, direct example I'm giving between the two places where consumption is very high in the developed countries, whereas consumption is lower in the developing countries. On the other hand, the quality of production, the handling and storage, the cold storage facilities, the transportation, all that are very good in the Western countries, in the developed countries, correct? There's no loss there, or minimum loss is there when going from one stage to another stage, which is not the stage in, let's say, in India, because huge amount of fruits and vegetables are wasted before it reaches the market itself. So these are the two angles which we have to understand. Okay, food loss and waste. So this is all the areas where you have the places where you have the production, handling, storage, processing, transportation, cold storage, which is mentioned here on the top, on the right hand side. Okay, all these are sources where there is food loss taking place, and they become candidates for doing something there. How do I reduce food loss there? That becomes the question. So if you go to the market here and go to a typical market in Coimbatore or some place like that in Chennai, you'll realize that there's a lot of wastage taking place in the market. Okay, all perishables. What are they doing about it? So sometimes something is being done about it, sometimes nothing. Okay, so this is the source of the problem. How do we reduce that? Okay, right? Okay, and in the distribution stage, if you see at home, in restaurants or hotels or eating establishments, like for example hostels, educational institutions, supermarkets, and with vegetable fruits vendors and all that. Also, there is a need to reduce the food wastage there. Okay, so that is tells you where the problem lies in both these cases. Both these case situations, whether it's before it reaches the market or after it reaches the marketplace. So at the point of consumption, what is the root cause? This is my own analysis, which I have done to try to understand why do we waste food. Okay, this can apply to a developing country, it can apply to developed country also, both I would say, and it's worthwhile to understand why they do it. For example, the attitude. If you go and have somebody else food at some other place which you're not paying for, maybe you'll waste more. Okay, or if you're very health conscious, then you probably would not like to take more food or whatever it is. And there's an aspiration to buy more or exotic food in some place, so you try to take more than you can handle and prefer to eat fresh foods compared to old. So you waste the older food compared to the newer one. Relative cost of food in the Western countries, the cost of food relatively is very low in the advanced countries, whereas here the cost is much higher. So you would not waste here, there you would waste more. It doesn't cost you to throw away some food. Okay, so these are all the attitudes. So a lot of it is question of understanding the attitude. Probably they do not understand that if you waste food, it goes to the landfill, and the landfill creates an environment problem, okay, which can be avoided. And that environment problem is a big problem now. They don't understand that. So the first area that we need to work on is awareness. How do you make people aware that this is not a good thing to do? Okay, so that is one area. And know how. So how do you do it? On this particular front, there are a lot of material available today. And how do you make sure that you do not waste food, either at home or in the restaurant or in the eating establishment or during at the farm? A lot of work is going on. Okay. So sometimes we do not know. Here, I would say that this is the easier problem to solve because today a lot of information is actually available. The biggest problem is the attitude part, which is very difficult to change. So that may take a little bit more time. So this is the root cause here. Okay. And the solution to that is that we have got what we call as a food recovery hierarchy, which is by the EPA of United States, US EPA, Environmental Protection Agency. It tells you the kind of um, priority that you should have in order to look at food recovery. The first one would be, as you see on the right on the top, source reduction and reuse. Okay, try your level best to reduce the quantity of food that you're using for your purpose in a restaurant, for example, or try to reuse the whole thing. For example, you cut some vegetables and then the extra vegetables that goes in that need not be thrown. It can be made into a soup, something like that. So that is first case. Second thing is, if you cannot do anything about it, then the same food, there's an excess food, you can't plan for it because you can't understand the demand and supply. Therefore, that excess food can be given to somebody who will need it rather than thrown in the garbage. Then the third one would be the feeding the animals. Animals also require a lot of food, so scraps can also go there. The fourth one is the industrial use, where you're trying to convert that to energy or some other form of uh, utilization of something, into some product or something like that, which we'll talk about when you look at circular economy and all that. And then the last one is the composting. You convert the entire food waste into compost, which can be used in the garden or for growing manure, growing vegetables or whatever it is. The last option, which you probably should be avoiding, is goes to landfill. Okay, which is the source of the problem for food waste, which is what is creating the greenhouse gases. And even if you incinerate the entire thing, it produces some other type of effects in terms of the gases. Okay, that's the last resort. But unfortunately, what is happening is all the points in between are skipped, and straight away, most of it goes to landfill. So, what happens when you throw the waste into the garbage? You know, Typically the wet waste, as we call it, the garbage bin in the street. At least 50% of that can be diverted to all the four categories here. At least definitely the three ones, the feed animals, industrial uses, composting, and all that. It can be done, but we don't do it. Instead, it goes to the landfill. Okay, so that's the example I'm giving you. Of how something can be done by reducing the amount of waste that goes into the garbage bin, the wet waste. If the wet waste is reduced, then so much amount of landfill get reduced. Today we have got huge mountains of landfill because of the fact that they don't know how to manage that, and that produces the unnecessary gas. Okay. So the mantra here is reduce, reuse, recycle, recover. 4 parts. 4 R's. 4 R's is the mantra for everything. If you look at food recovery, do one of the following: reduce, reuse, recycle, or recover. And then you're good to go. You will find some solution to that. And you cannot do that, then it goes to the landfill. Okay. So here is an example I've given. Little bit, I've gotten to little bit, dived into a little bit of detail in typically what happens in a restaurant or a hotel or in educational institution or even at home. How do you tackle the form food waste? For example, what we can have 3 distinct stages. The first one is spoilage. So even before it reaches you, you realize that there's some food is getting wasted because the quality of the source is not good enough. Okay, it may have got bad. Correct. you'll find oftentimes when you find vegetables, you'll find some of the vegetables are not good. Okay. They're not fit for use. So that is source quality. How do you ensure that the source quality is good, or at least separated and sent to the right place? During packing and transport, there is a damage is taking place in terms of the food that is transported. And then while storing also, because you're not able to store in the appropriate conditions of temperature, humidity, you realize that food goes waste. It cannot store for long. What can be stored for 1 week, you end up storing for 2 weeks, and the result is at the end of the last part of the 2 weeks, you realize that some part of it got spoiled. So there's spoilage even before you start using it, receiving it. That is one. Second is preparation. While preparation, some cuttings and trimmings are there which you cannot avoid, which are there. Or if it's improperly cooked, then you realize that goes to waste, or you produce excess. You make more than what is required. Okay. So all this also is during preparation, also you realize that there is some wastage taking place. And then last one is the consumption part. What you say is plates. Either the buffet, in a buffet thing, do we consume more or less? Sometimes we end up consuming more. We take more on the plate that then we can handle, and finally we cannot eat that because we have only one stomach, and therefore the whole thing goes into the garbage. So buffet is there. Or even in quick service restaurants and fast food, you realize that they give you a standard menu. They give a standard menu, and you got to take that. And if you don't like something, that goes to the garbage. And events, weddings, events, conferences, seminars, all those places also, there's a scope of wastage taking place, because there's a lot of food activity, eating activity at that place. Just to give you an example, I'm talking a little bit on high level, but here I'd like to give you an example because there's a picture there of some idli there and some sambar and some chutney there, right? Okay, let me say some of my own personal experience, which I have observed. Two types of restaurants. One is Sarvana Bhavan, which you often see a lot in Chennai. Okay, right. How do they serve? Something typically like this only. They have a tray and they have the idli there, and then they have the sambar there in one place. They have various chutneys there, right? Okay. Now, it's quite possible that you are a guy who likes to have the sambar, not the chutney, or vice versa. So, for you, one of them goes waste. Okay. Or you may have all of it. One of them is spicy, so you cannot take it, so you leave it. One of the reasons. So there's a good chance that you can't consume everything, and that goes waste. So what is another restaurant like Murugan Idli shop? What does it do? It doesn't provide you all that directly in a plate. Instead, it first gives you a banana leaf. In the banana leaf, it asks for how many idlis you want. You want 3, 4, whatever. He gives you the idli. Then he comes with a separate thing, and then he serves you all the chutneys and sambar separately on the banana leaf. Now, you can have as much as you want, but you got to ask for it, or you will keep it there on the table. You can take it yourself. So you take only what you want, and you do not take what is given to you. So the wastage becomes less. A simple thing. I'm just telling you that there are very, very simple things which have been found across the world, which can, by tweaking that, by changing the method, okay, you are able to find a way by which you can solve the problem. And it's not rocket science. It's not very difficult to do that. All is it, you have to observe and implement it at that particular place. So this is one example I thought I would talk about. Okay. Like this, you have find examples in each of the areas we just mentioned. Right? Okay. How is it that the interface of engineering and technology here with respect to food recovery? The food recovery, if you take as a particular discipline, or rather a way of doing things, right from farm to plate, farm to table or fork, right from the entire cycle, if you see, the major amount is waste processing. How do you handle waste processing? And waste processing is a topic of interest for environment engineers, chemical engineers, sometimes even civil engineers. So That's a big part of the whole story. Second thing is cold storage. I'm particularly mentioning cold storage because in India, that's a problem. We do not have as many good cold storage facilities as what we should have. Okay. And that's the reason why we are having a problem of wastage before it reaches the market. So cold storage, warehousing, drying, there's a lot of improvements in process engineering also one can be done. eh? And then the new concept of emphasis on circular economy. Now, what is circular economy? Making sure that nothing is wasted. We have zero waste. Okay. In case of food waste, probably it's very tough because there's going to be some wastage at the end of the cycle, maybe, but then that can be minimized. To make sure that everything that you do, everything that you produce has some use. The most good example I like to give of circular economy is the banana. Okay, if you look at the banana, every single part of the banana tree is used. All South Indians will know that, right? Every single part of the banana tree is actually utilized in some way, right? Except the banana peel. Except the banana peel, which probably requires some attention. People are saying that even that can be used, but then it's an idea worth pursuing. So similarly, you need to find out in all these areas that we're having, how do you
Kunitappa,
make, how do you make sure
அந்த
that
29 ரூபாய்.
how do you make sure that this particular aspect is covered? If you have a circular economy, a largely circular economy, then realize the waste is going down. Therefore, this results in a lot of new products and R&D. So this sector can be a good candidate for doing a lot of new products and R&D. And particularly the emphasis, or rather the work of information and communication technology can be very high here. You know, there are many people working on these areas, just like in other areas. Today, we're talking about artificial intelligence and so on. So all these new areas of technology can be applied here so that we can have a better information level, data level, which will help us to determine what we have to do next. So from engineering and technology point of view, there's a lot of opportunities here. Okay, that is one. Second, management. A big part of the thing is supply chain management, right from the farm to the table, farm to fork, you have supply chain management, the logistics part. There's also need for collaboration because many of the initiatives I'm talking about cannot be done singly, or rather it's very difficult to do singly. Example I'll tell you is, let's take the example of compost. You can create a compost in your house. You can have, there are facilities available today by which you can have, throw the wet waste that you generate every particular day into a compost large bin. Okay, but it is not being done so easily, and there are some difficulties in doing that. For example, you have maybe getting flies there, or it's not a suitable place to keep it at home, and what kind of thing. The other option is to have a community composting. Okay, so when you have community composting, you realize that everybody comes and throws that particular wet waste there, and finally, end of the day, that community compost can either be converted to compost or even produce energy. Okay, so there is a need for cooperation here. A lot of these projects can be done by cooperation. Okay, cooperation and collaboration is a key here. And there is a lot of opportunities for production management also, because finally, at the end of the day, from farm to the table of folk is a production process. And because there are a lot of new ideas coming up, we need the market research. So there's enough scope for people involved in management consultants to get into the area, just get in the area and work on this. Okay. So I've spoken about engineering technology, I've spoken about the management consultants as well. So typically, I would consider this as a low-hanging fruit. The problem of food recovery is not a big thing. It's not unlike the other areas which were difficult to handle. If you go to other areas which find probably the technology not there, or technology complex, or you need to understand it better, and so on and so forth. Somebody has to develop it. Okay. Here is nothing of that sort, because most of it is fairly easily understood how to do it. And little bit of ingenuity, little bit of initiative, you can get onto it. Okay, you can do things not only in your workplace, you can do it at home also. The beauty of this thing, that many of the things you can try out at home, because home use the same materials, the food we are using the same materials, so we can try it out and say, okay, this may be a good idea, why not do it in the bigger place, so right from the farm to the table, you find you can address these issues by this mantra I talked about: reduce, reuse, recycle, recovery. And then it'll solve the problem of food and hunger. It'll also solve the problem of the environment and the energy. So that's the crux of the whole thing. We can look at this as an opportunity. If one third of the food is getting wasted, we can look at it as an opportunity to do something about it. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about sustainability and social responsibility. Okay, what is it that we are talking about, and why are we talking about these two areas? In the earlier years, we used to talk about, as a business, we used to talk about shareholders. Okay, slowly we understood that it's not enough to satisfy shareholders. You got to look at stakeholders. They may not be shareholders, but yet you got to look after them in order to make sure that the organization is effective, it survives, and it is doing its job, and it is still productive, because stakeholders can make or mar a particular area business. So that's how it started off. Then we started looking at social responsibility. That's why we got the meaning of corporate social responsibility also. That's how the word was coined. Said we need to be responsible to the people around us, society, and therefore you got to do something beyond what we are doing as a business. That's what we talk about. And now we're talking about sustainability. Sustainability of a business has become a big word now, because of the fact that if you don't do that, probably you will not survive in the next 10 years or 20 years. Your business may not be there, because of the fact that a lot of it is affecting the environment, and a lot of it is affecting the people. And so people have started understanding sustainability in a better way. A lot of governments also have got into it. Okay. So that is the link between, slowly we are progressing from one stage to another, understanding business in a better way. Okay. So the UN, what it has done is it has generated 17 goals under 17 categories. They're called the Sustainable Development Goals, or SDG for short. SDG. So you find that in the 17 there, many of the common problems are all coming in: poverty, hunger, education, okay, sanitation, okay, then sustainable cities, climate action, water, land, everything is there in this. Responsible consumption, production, all that is there. So the one of the ways by which every organization tries to meet the sustainability requirements is to see, okay, which are the areas of these areas are do I affect, and what are the things that I can do something about. Okay. And frequently you'll find a couple of these points which will match them, and then you can start working on them. So these are the 17 goals. And in this, the number 12 one, responsible consumption and production, is one which is directly connected with the food recovery. How do you consume resources in a very responsible way? That's what it is. Okay, because finally food recovery also is a if you don't do it, is a dent on the resources part. So SDGs, Sustainable Development Goal target 2.3, and there are subdivisions there. It's called for the world to cut per capita food waste in half by 2030. That's the goal. Okay. So when you do that, not only you are going to solve the food problem, but it's also going to help the environment problem. It's also will help the energy problem and so on. So directly they're linked to you. So that's how we are connecting this to what the UN or the Sustainability Development Goals want. And three particular areas of the 17 are: one is the poverty part, which you spoke about, the hunger part, and the 12 part. The 12 is responsible consumption production. These three are the areas which we are trying to talk about, where there are specific subdivisions of this. Number 12 is 12.3 and 12.5. Where 2030, substantially you reduce the global per capita consumption by half. Okay. And but towards 20, substantially reduce waste generation through prevention, reduction, recycle, reuse. The 4 R's we talked about. So when you take an activity, either in your organization or in the community or yourself personally, you realize that you are meeting all these particular goals, which are finally helping the global cause. So I'm just to have a break for you. You can use this as a bio break for a few minutes and come back if you want, or if you have any questions up to now, also you can ask, though there are going to be questions at the end of the session. But if there are any questions, also somebody can ask, or you can just have a break. We'll start back in another 2 minutes.
Okay. Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Vishwanath. Sir, one thing you didn't mention is the political reason for waste. For example, in India, we produce excess food, but to keep the farmers happy, subsidies are given, FCI go downs are overflowing, rats are eating that cycle, because otherwise what will you do with the farmers? So that you never mentioned, sir. Because of political reasons, so much of food is wasted.
Yeah, I did mention the political part, but I didn't elaborate on that.
Okay.
So here is the take on that. So
yeah,
let me take the situation by comparing countries. Okay. Now, in comparison to India, the other countries which have got maximum effect of food waste, okay, and therefore greenhouse gases, one is US. Is the biggest area of food waste is happening in the US, not even Europe. Europe, in fact, is doing very well. But all countries are not acting on the particular food waste problem in the same way. Now, if you take France as example, France has gone much ahead on this front, political. Okay, they're all part of the political thing only. It comes from, finally, end of the day, the policy starts with politics. Okay, France has got a legislation itself that in supermarkets, if you waste food there or we dump food there, they get hauled up. They got legislation already. We don't have anything of that sort, because that for us, the food part is not at all a priority still. Even
in
now,
fact,
if you see,
so government gives subsidy and encourages people to produce more, while it is actually overflowing FCI go down. Wouldn't it be prudent to actually give subsidy not to produce food? You instead of subsidizing fertilizer and
absolutely, that's what I'm saying. No, the government has not talked about it in a way which is holistic, because they have not taken that as a priority. There are other countries in the world who are actually doing quite a lot. Even the US is doing quite a lot. Only thing is that their particular problem is enormous. But if you take one country which is doing a lot here, or two countries rather, one is France and other is UK. They're doing a lot of this in this area by the government getting active on that. So nothing to stop the government in getting active here. We do have a food processing ministry, right? But we don't know what they're doing. Is never news. Is never there in the thing that what are they doing about it? All that is being done today in food recovery area is by private establishments only. Private establishments are trying their level best to recover the food and give it to, like Good Samaritans, they give it to various charitable institutions. All that is happening in a number of places. So unless there is a political will, it will not happen. You're right about that. But politics is a part of it, part of the thing, not in terms of a conflict, more in terms of it being considered a priority. It's not prioritized. I hope I have answered the question. So are we good to start now?
Yes, sir, we can, sir.
Okay, good. So we go to the last two parts of the whole thing. What's in it me for me, business and professionals? This is what, so the earlier part was generally an overview of what we can do and all that. What's it all about? A lot more, as I mentioned, there are lot more information available. If anybody is interested in knowing more about a specific area, a lot of information is there in the public domain, all available freely. So any person can actually get into it and know more about it. If you even send me a mail or message me, I can even point out certain areas and send you something also. Okay. So what's in it me for business professionals? So cost of food waste. This is what is reported in literature. 30% that we talked about food waste is equivalent about $1 trillion economic loss, 1.3 billion tons. And also they've connected it to environmental social costs also. So it's a huge figure. May not mean much to us because we really cannot even get a handle on what is our part of the whole story, because this is only a figure to us. But yet it gives an alert that yes, there's a lot of money being wasted here because of this. So here is the point. On one hand, we can go to the thing that we normally do, that is, we collect the excess food which is there, whatever food that is getting wasted by producing more, producing more meals, for example, in restaurants or in establishments or in weddings or in houses, and the extra one, we go and feed hungry people. So there are food banks available, and you go and that is one way of doing it. But is it only that? Is it only the charity part? Is the question. That is one way of doing it, and it must be continued. This is all doing very well. That has to be continued and improved also. No doubt about it. But if we actually evaluate, by reducing the wastage, a business will reduce the cost of their operations. It's logical, right? Any waste that is reduced automatically saves cost. Now, why aren't they doing it? Now, to give you an example, I did a survey of restaurants around in Chennai, and I told them, many restaurants I went to, they are all usually not the hotels, not the higher, the one the hotels, but the restaurants. Okay, and I told them, listen, I can come and do an audit for you, or rather a survey or a study, something like that, of where is the wastage taking place in your place, and give you a report on that, and I won't charge you anything for it. I did this for nearly 2 weeks. I went into many places. I didn't get a single job there. They were not interested. So the question is, why aren't they interested? Why wouldn't anybody try to reduce the cost? I told them, if you try to find out wastage taking place and you try to find a way out, you may reduce the cost. Logic would say that they would actually be happy to do that, but they were not interested because that was not their priority at all. Again, question of what's the priority that you have. The cost was not a factor for them to get into the act. In fact, in one buffet restaurant, the person was very much keen on doing it. They appreciated what I was saying, but the only problem is that they can't sell it to the customer because the customer wants more food and they want to waste food. So that problem was there. So if you get into the thing, you realize that this cost reduction part has to be understood there. Okay. Once a organization understands it from that point of view, they will try to find a way to reduce it. And then obviously resource directly connects to resource utilization, the whole thing. The third angle we are looking at is circularity. That is, anything that you produce, nothing is a waste. Can we put it to some use, whatever it is? Let no waste go to the landfill, or rather minimum should go to the landfill. So for example, if you have a coffee shop, okay, what is the waste getting generated there in a coffee shop? The one which produces coffee, the coffee grounds itself. He makes coffee, the person makes coffee, the grounds are a waste. He has to dump it. Is that coffee waste being dumped into the garbage, or what is he doing about it? So that's a question. That's the reason why we're looking at circularity, to make sure that every single thing that they have gets back, and there's somebody using it, or it goes back into the system. And the fact that we saw already that it's connected to the environment, energy can be produced, and lastly, it's all good for sustainability. So when you look at all these angles, you realize these are all good candidates for doing something from a business perspective. So long as you keep looking at it from a donation perspective, you probably do not get into the act. The minute you shift your whole picture and say that, look, donation is fine, but can I look at to the other perspective? Then you realize that many options available. So this is the part about moving from non-profit to profit situation, the mindset. So who can benefit from it? Of course, entrepreneurs, management consultants, technical based organizations. There's a lot of work for all of them. Food technologies, engineering, process engineers, government and not-profit governments definitely can get into it, even though they aren't doing it. And engineers and technologists are all there. They're all good work for many of these people. There are many projects here. So just to give you an idea about what is happening around the world, which will give you some kind of pointers and probably fire some of the imagination in your minds also, saying that, okay, why not I start looking at some of these? I've pulled out a lot of them around the world. Some of them from India, some from US, from Africa, Europe, it's all mixed thing, right? So the first one is very interesting. Bakery's edible cutlery. That person makes a spoon, which itself after use, you can eat it. This is somebody from some company in Hyderabad. Okay. Or if you don't eat it, if you throw it in the garbage also, it's biodegradable. Okay. So somebody has developed that. So which means there are no plastic spoons. And plastic spoons have anyway been banned in many places now. Okay. Second one is from the coffee grounds, by mixing with some biopolymers, they make coffee cups. This is being done in Europe. Then converting restaurant waste to animal feed. This I think is being done somewhere in Simba, which is in Africa. And the So Fresh part is very interesting because it produces a packaging which inhibits the mold growth in a way by which it can increase the shelf life of the item. Most of the time, if you take a piece of bread or something like that, if you keep it for too long, because of the heat and humidity, you'll find some mold getting formed in that, right? Or any particular item also. Even if you keep it in the fridge, you realize that if you keep it too long, it gets spoiled. You can't keep it for too long. So this is one thing which will actually control the formation of mold. They have a very scientific way of doing it. That is one example. Then using IT can be used a lot to record information and send it back to the common database in the cloud. And from that information, you can actually make responsible decisions, which are more real-time decisions on what you should do with your particular produce. That's what is being done by Lean Path. This is a UK-based thing. Misfits Market is in the US. They take care that any produce which is ugly or looks bad or not being bought because of that. For example, I found the other day a lemon, not round in piece, not round actually, but rectangular. I don't know. It's still a lemon. You can use it, but maybe people will not buy it because it's not round. So those kind of things. There's a misfits which are there. Nurture Fields is again somebody in India which is converting food waste from a marginal farmer, collects and then makes some kind of powders by some process, I think, which is using fruits and all that, the powders of fruits. So the only thing is that it is taking the things which are normally spoiled or thrown away. So in off season, you'll find some of the farmers throwing away a lot of food, vegetables and all that, and fruits. So that part, they take that and then convert it into something useful. And cold hubs is an interesting way by which they are allowing cold storage rooms on rent, on a pay-per-use model. This is being done, I think, somewhere in Africa. So these are very few examples, and many of them like this. If you just go to the internet, you'll find plenty of them, examples of what people are doing. And these are all pointers to understand that, okay, in my area of work, maybe one of them I can try. It's a good opportunity for business or even in your own organization, or personally also you could be interested in doing something about that. Okay. So let me look at some ideas and projects, some examples, some more of them. Okay. So these are cold storages, evaporative cooling. This is one way of using this, the energy part. These are the composting ones, which you'll find you can use at home, which are available. The 3-tier system is useful because you can keep shifting the jars after a few period. You can do food waste audits in many cafeterias, and that audit part actually helps you to determine what is the waste, where is the waste, how to waste it. In fact, many of the cafeterias today, in the public cafeterias, you'll find one board there which mentions that today so much amount was produced, so much amount was wasted, and they write it on a board. Okay, so at least being aware of it, people work on that and they waste less. I mentioned about cooperatives, how important. This is a picture of the Amul cooperative. I think a thing so successful as Amul cooperative can also be replicated in these areas also. In the same way how it is being done. Some of the cooperatives in the vegetable markets and all are being done, but this can be extended. Then you have solar dryers for fruits and vegetables, again to control the humidity and the heat, and producing biogas. Many of these things are available. Many of these methods are available. It's a question of only trying to understand how to understand your need and get to the next step. Okay. So the same thing I've seen, that how we can do this at the various stages which mentioned, right from the farm, the production stage, to handling and storage, to processing and packaging, then go to distribution, markets, consumption. In each of these areas, you'll find that something can be done. Different particular initiatives can be taken into account. So this is a very nice report. It is called ReFed. If you Google on refed.org, you will get this particular report and this site. This is based in US, and it's actually given you a huge amount of number of small projects which can be done at every level. And it also gives you, this is only a snapshot here, but if you go to that site, it will tell you what is the financial benefit from each of them. Of course, they mentioned it in dollars and all that, but you can get a clue, you can get a cue from the whole thing. How much is waste is diverted, emissions reduced, water saved, jobs created, meals recovered, all are there. If you look into each of those areas, you click on that, you get the information in each of these particular cases. I have just picked up a few here. One is trayless dining. So what is trayless dining? So in campus cafeterias, what do the students do? When they go to the beginning of the particular queue, they are given a tray which has got number of containers or not containers or number of areas where you can have different food. And then they start going through one by one and collecting the tray. Usually a tray is a rectangular type of thing, maybe about 1.5 to 1 feet or whatever it is, which they can take in a hand and go, right? So what happens is that in this particular case, they tend to take more than what they can handle because they don't want to come back again, right? So instead of taking one course, they take the double now itself and go. Once they go and start eating, they realize that they can't take so much because their appetite is always the eye is for the eye is more appetizing than actually the stomach, so you feel like eating it, but then when you actually get down to eating it, you realize that you're not able to eat it. So that entire thing is waste. So what did the people do there? They removed the tray. There was no tray. Instead, they gave them plates. Okay. So the plate can handle probably half the amount of the tray. So what used to happen was if they go with the plate, they'll take only less amount of food. And they were saying that, okay, if you want more food, come back. So that was a very interesting way of reducing the wastage. I just picked up one of them like this. And of course, you can have education campaigns and home composting. So in this particular report, if you go to, you'll realize that there are a lot of projects which are given. Some of them may be of use to you because you can actually do them. Okay. So these are some of my personal projects. Okay. So the one I mentioned about the coffee waste, I actually did a survey in Chennai for various people to find out where exactly is the waste going. And to my surprise, I found that there is a huge amount of coffee waste available, even from Sangeeta, the coffee shop, the restaurant. They were willing to give me even 1 ton a day of waste. Now, what do I do with that? The question was, the waste is available. As an entrepreneur, what can I do? I haven't thought about doing something about it, but then I'm not able to get to that stage because for various reasons. But the point is that this is the waste which is generated. Where does it go? It goes to the landfill. Most of it. There are people, like I mentioned, the example of the coffee cup with the biopolymers. There are people around the world who are doing projects on this. Some of them are developing furniture. Some of them are developing even small items like the mouse which you use for your laptop. They're developing things. So there are people around the world that are doing, but they're very less. Even Starbucks is having some program to recycle this to be used in the horticulture area. A lot of this is very good for horticulture area, for the garden, okay, as manure. So that's the coffee ground. And then you have the same kind of thing on vegetables also. I could do a survey on that and point out some more information. And personally, since I'm into cooking, I have prepared orange marmalade using these peels, which are usually chucked. After eating the orange, you usually throw them away, right? You can make orange marmalade from this at home. And the good part is everybody doesn't like it. I like it. My wife doesn't like it. She doesn't like the marmalade. So I said, okay, it doesn't matter. At least I get to use it. And the other one, which I learned from the YouTube video, the watermelon rinds. You can make some think out of these also after using vitamin. And I've been doing it successfully over the last couple of months with the help of a video from YouTube on how to use it, So there are such things which you can do also, which is I do it out of my passion because I do it. So let's get to the final thoughts. I hope you had an overview of the whole thing, right? And what are the final thoughts here? My thoughts are that food recovery, the area itself has good scope for a lot of businesses and professionals. You can actually do something about it, whatever way you want to do. The key areas are new products, R&D, management of supply chain. These are areas. Some new products you can develop. The good part of the thing is that the knowledge for this is all available. Most of it, the thing is you can go to the internet and search. Plenty of material is available. Even the know-how of how to do it. Because they're not very, very difficult things. Like I mentioned, I wanted to make use of that watermelon rinds. What did I do? I just went to YouTube and I found there was a chef giving me a recipe right there. All I had to do is follow it. So many of the things are easily available in this area. It's not so difficult as in other areas. But a change in mindset is required to understand this area as a business area rather than just thinking that, okay, food I'm wasting, why not just donate to others? That we can do always. We continue to do it. But it's also another area, another aspect to the whole thing. Opportunity exists for everybody, whether it's technologists, engineers, non-profit sector, whatever, all those places you can do something about it. So now time for any questions.
Thank you very much, sir. So we keep the floor open for question and answers now. Participants, you may please unmute and ask your questions.
I hope you don't think I'm monopolizing. We are involved in a project thanks to Padma Shri Dr. Mailsamy Annadure, making using banana stem and making products like the fiber, the suture and all that. We did the pilot plant. We were very lucky. What really I understood, I being a chemical engineer, that the value addition when food is 3-4 times of the raw material used. So no chemicals have that kind of value addition. If you see, right, even agriculture for that matter, if you see the input that goes in and the kind of cost at which either produce is sold or food is sold, amazing value addition. So actually it's an ideal thing for entrepreneurs. Thank you, sir. This 30%, I mean, it's amazing. If you calculate in $1 trillion business, it's a real eye opener for, at least for chemical engineers, it's a big eye opener because we are looking at process. Gopi will agree. We are basically process engineers. And if we can do something to save 30%, it'll be great. Thank you very much, sir. It's a real eye opener.
Yeah. What is your name?
Vishwanath, sir.
Vishwanath. Okay.
I am 77-82 batch. Much
Yeah. I saw you.
So I was lucky. I got roped into this project by Padma Shri Mailsamy Annadure because this banana stem, very little is consumed as food. They are trying to make fibers, but again it is decentralized and disorganized, manual.
Banana stem is vadathandu, right?
Vadathandu.
Well, that's that I thought we were using it here, but the quantity is less.
Very, very less. Bulk and the water content is very high. And he managed to get a private funding, and we were lucky, very lucky to get involved in that project. I didn't even know. In fact, I protested. I said I do not know anything about it. He said give it a shot, and I educated myself a lot in this. And one of the thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Anyone else who has got anything to contribute also? Welcome, because
sir, Pritish here. A couple of quick questions. Is there any body or charity organizations who have, let's say, pan-India presence across all major cities who normally arrange to collect the excess food from parties, especially as a lot of wastage is foreseen, who have pan-India presence? That was one thing because...
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that
I'll
was...
answer that question first. So
Yeah.
pan-India presence, they may not be, they are pretty much localized. Now, I have been on this for last couple of 3-4 years, not so much now. But what I found was that because of the fact that many organizations cannot have that many resources to be pan-India, they work locally in that particular area. In Chennai itself, there are plenty of them who do that. And you'll find in every city, major city, they are there. They collect and send it to charitable institutions, right? And that is the model. That's the model that it goes on. And around the world also it is there. There are plenty of these people. They are called rescue people who rescue, food rescue. The thing is word used. But I don't think there's anybody pan-India like that, because I think they have a problem of getting that kind of size to be a company like that. They cannot do that. Whereas in a business enterprise, it's possible somebody will get into it and make it pan-India. You cannot, a Google can do it, like that. You will not have anybody like Google doing this, So that's the problem. But in that particular area, you look for them, you will find somebody.
Yeah, sure, sir. Yeah, thanks.
And what is the other question?
Yeah, sir, in India, what is the approximate contribution of the food loss on food waste in the rural and urban areas? Like, is it waste on account of food waste more in urban, or overall the percentage contribution of these two parameters in rural and urban for India?
No data is there on that, but my guess is that it will not be very different, because I think even in India, the major problem that we face is the front end of wastage, not at the the latter part. Latter part, generally, I find people are quite perceptive in wastage. So even in cities, you'll find that people don't waste so much. Rural will only be better. So I don't think that's a big problem, though we can still keep working on it. For example, if you go to a wedding, you'll find people wasting food. That's there. But it's not there everywhere, The caterers themselves are quite knowledgeable now. They won't serve you. Earlier on, if you go 15 years back, if you go and sit in the marriage thing and the banana leaf is there, he'll immediately send in 2-3 times the rice, right? Now he looks at you, has eye contact, and make sure that the right amount of rice on the they may do that.
With the permission, Narsi, I just want to add.
Yeah.
See, in one of the marriages, the caterer did a very novel thing also.
Yeah.
He put a placard displaying the complete menu, and at the bottom, he said, "Eat what you want. Please look at it and then deny when you don't want it." He just put a small sticker at the bottom, and the servers, when they come to serve you, they were holding on their elbow, they were holding a small placard displaying what is the item they are carrying.
Yeah.
So the person can ask only if he want.
Correct.
That's a good gesture, and
many places are doing it. There are many places that are doing it.
Now they are doing it gradually.
And therefore, my feeling is that they're not so bad, because some waste takes place. That's fine, but at least I find that the attitude is much better.
Yes, attitude. The very first point when the attitude comes in, people used to dump it out. But now it is gradually changing.
Yeah.
Gradually. Yeah.
We have to work more on the front end in terms of the better cold storage facilities to make sure the wastage goes down. Because if you see the statistics there, world statistics shows that in that front only we are bad. Consumption, we are not so bad. We are bad in the front end part only. The farm part, like Vishwanath also was telling, about how we're producing more food and keep eating in the godowns, right? And that is going waste. And they give subsidy for that.
Our country as a whole is culturally slightly bent towards, not wasting food and saving
Yes.
others. That is there. That sign is there. That cultural bent is always helping us.
Always there.
Yes, it is always there. That shows up at points. That is
Yeah.
also there. Yeah.
Even if somebody wastes, then somebody else will go and tell him that, hey, don't waste,
Yes.
that kind of thing.
Yes.
So
Yes.
they'll be frowned on. So
Yes. That culture still
correct.
is
So we
prevailing
have to
at some
actually
point.
work on the front end, and that
Yes.
is a bigger thing to handle, because it requires help from is a large industry.
But I have a different angle. Right at
Yeah.
the beginning, you started off with something very simple equation of 30% of wastage and about 11% starving.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, suppose assuming that everything is going fine and we start reducing the thing, will there be any upper limit for saving the wastage?
Junk word also she doesn't want anything.
Upper limit for saving the wastage.
That means we should not go beyond that the 11% or something like that. You get my question? It is slightly 30%.
I don't think there will be an upper limit, because it's going to be well, in terms of food wastage, some scraps we can't use at all. So, for example,
it has to go to the landfill. It has to.
It has to. For example, you
Okay.
take a potato peel.
Okay.
What will you do with the potato peel?
Okay.
It can only be used for producing gas.
Yeah.
So to that extent, you can avoid going to landfill.
Yeah.
You dump it somewhere and produce biogas out of that.
Yes. But right at the beginning, you mentioned that 30% almost stagnant and stationary for continuously 2-3 years, which means
more than that.
But that
same
means
statistic is still there.
Now, food growth is increasing in one side, but the wastage is 30% remaining. That means wastage is also growing.
Message is not growing to the extent that is required. It is happening in sporadic countries.
Okay.
A lot of places in Europe are doing it well.
Okay.
Some bit of things is happening now in US also, because the US is a big problem area compared to Europe.
Okay.
So there are many examples. For example, in one restaurant, if you eat, he will charge you some X amount. If you waste, he'll ask you X plus some amount. There are things like that also. You can't waste. They'll weigh the plate after you eat. Okay, whatever you wasted, you charge you for it.
Yes, that's one of the industries also did in their canteen also. That's
there are various ways people are doing, but they're all very small.
Yes, very small.
Not the larger ones.
Yeah,
they're all good ideas. So I would think that there is definitely a need for working on that area, and the more people get into that front part, get into the details, you will find that there is a scope for many of us.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. There's plenty of scope for entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Sujata, you can go on, Sujata.
Yeah. Sir, good afternoon. My name is Sujata Prakash, and I am a chemical engineer from 1987 batch.
Yeah.
I just have a doubt over here. When we talk about the food wastage, there are quite a lot of CSR initiatives which are happening in corporates, where they think of upgrading or adopting schools or improving the tree plantation and doing things like that. So do you have any suggestions to wherein we can collect or segregate the wastes and encourage entrepreneurship as a CSR initiative? Is that possible?
Yes, absolutely. It depends. Do you want to do it in your own organization or outside?
Outside, I'm asking.
Outside, yeah, you can do it outside also. But the problem would be you have to do it like a community project.
Okay, like, is there any NGO or somebody who is involved in taking up such community projects?
That you have to search for those
Okay.
something like that,
No, no.
specific like that. But
Ah,
the thing is that these are the things which you have to work on. So once you are seized with the idea,
ah,
start with the idea, and then
ah.
you have to get some promoters along with you,
Okay.
and then do it. It
Okay.
can be done, just like how we spoke about uh, the reuse of excess food for charitable institutions. Then many people have gotten to it because they understand the idea. Here also it's possible. I've just give you example of the compost. Compost is there. So community composting is,
Hello.
yeah. I'm I'm giving the example of community composting. Can you hear me?
Yeah. No, that is what I was just wondering.
Hmm.
When there is a lot of scope for collecting the vegetable waste or food waste also, and generating compost out of it. When we convert it into a compost, the shelf life is much longer.
Yes.
So somewhere you are definitely making a good use of it.
Yes.
So whether it can happen on a large scale, for example, if you visit this Coimbatore market, so much of vegetable waste will be there. Every day you will be able to collect tons and tons of it.
Yeah.
And there was an initiative from the corporation to start a project like that. And Pollution Control Board was also involved, but somehow it did not take off. So such things, if it could be focused upon, I felt it will definitely resolve this problem.
Yeah. But the point I'm trying to make is that the minute you start looking at non-profit, where does the funding come from? That question crops up immediately.
That is
Nobody
what
gets interested because they don't have the funds to do it.
No,
right?
I was just wondering whether we can link it with the CSR initiatives.
Yes, with CSR, it can automatically be done. Because
Okay.
the funding has to come from the CS, the organization which is doing it.
Okay.
So one of the biggest problems in all the non-profit for this doing this is, where does the funding come from?
Okay.
So
no, again,
just like you said in the beginning, people may be interested in giving money for one purpose. They may not be interested in giving money for some other purpose. So
that is there.
So suppose I say I'm going to give money for scholarship for somebody, I may be interested. If I say I want to give the thing for a food recovery project, I may say, no, that's not okay. Scholarship is fine. So there is some thing like this also. The funding problem is there here also.
Yes, sir. I agree with you, sir. But again, my request is, see, you have given a lot of information, a lot of statistical details about the food generation waste and all that, associating it with revenue, everything is fine. Would it be possible to have some more awareness sessions in certain areas or industrial clusters so that people will get to know more about this concept?
Yes, it is possible. Awareness is one of the ways. I mentioned the 3 points there. One was awareness. One is the know-how part, and the third one is the attitude. So awareness is one of the things by which it can be spread, which will help both the areas, the know-how as well as the attitude, because know-how, a large part of it is there. If it's not there, with most of us, it's there, so it's be found out. So the minute you start looking at it from a business case point of view, if you start looking at that, say, if you say that, let's take example of composting, community composting. If I set up a community composting, this is the amount of money that is going to be as capital cost, and this is the operating cost, and this is the revenue that I'm going to get out of it. Okay. And the payback period is this. All this data, if it's there with you, then you'll find that the whole thing comes up. The minute it becomes the payback period is a question mark, then it remains a non-profit charity model.
Okay,
then you find that, okay, what are you going to get out of it? That's what I'm saying. So, for example, even if CSR, what will happen is CSR, the particular organization will fund it. Suppose it costs 10 lakhs. They'll say, okay, I will give you 10 lakhs. Now what? What is coming out of it? Am I going to get revenue out of it or something like that? The minute it has to be self-sustainable. It has to be operated like a business organization. Then only it will survive. There's only it'll be sustainable in the long run, Otherwise, again, you go back to that person for funds. And you depend on donors. My take is that many of things are actually good candidates for doing from a business point of view itself, instead of looking at from a donation point of view. Because you are saving money, you are creating energy, and you are also what do you call, producing some product, sometimes a byproduct or something like that. So each of these you put together, you
Main
realize
thing
that,
is minimizing waste.
yeah, that is a side effect. I'm saying from business point of view, what you
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
get
yeah.
out of it.
Yeah, yeah.
So when you do that, then it becomes doable. So I gave the example of coffee, right?
Yeah.
The coffee is a waste. With that coffee, the coffee mixed with the resin, biopolymer, and then they mold it and make cups out of it. Now the cup is going to be sold at a price, right? Maybe the cup is going to cost twice the normal cup, because they may not have the thing. At some point of time, if they're able to sell that cup well, then it becomes a viable business. So that's how you have to see it. If you see from that point of view, there are many opportunities here. And at the same time, you're solving the problem also.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people are getting into it in some way or other. They got into it, whether it's be manufacturing or it's becoming IT or different areas. Whatever is the area of strength, they get into it. So opportunities are many, and they're all not very big. They're quite small. It's good enough for a small scale thing itself, for a startup.
Thank you very much, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, Shashikant, please go on, Shashikant.
Good afternoon, this is Shashikant here.
Yes,
Mr. Raju, I just have one question. See, most of these restaurants or cloud kitchens, they have plastic waste like cups and spoons also. Some of them are turning to organic and, as you said, consumable spoons, but still plastic waste is coming out. So I work with startups in advisory mode. So some of the startups who want to start something in this line, they come and ask me only one question is, can we have a machinery by which we can convert these plastic waste coming out from restaurants and cloud kitchens into some products like floor tiles. And we have seen this, right, across LinkedIn and YouTube. I've seen machinery which converts plastic granules into some tiles or some cubes, right? So are you aware of any such single machine which a startup can invest and bring? Because if you have to put a plan for this, it's going to be very expensive, right? So I wanted your views on this. Thank you.
I don't have any specific knowledge on this particular item.
Okay.
But yeah, you have to look for it.
Okay.
So which means they are trying to use the plastic along with something, right? They're going to convert that into pellets or something.
To granules, so pellets which they can sell it into market for, using it as floor tiles in gardens or parks or anywhere.
So where is the plastic waste coming from? From the cloud kitchen.
From cloud kitchen or from restaurants. So there are enough restaurants. So I'm from Delhi NCR. So here every corner is full of restaurants.
Yeah, I know, but how does the consumption level? How do you collect it from the consumer?
So that they'll find. See, like the way today we have Swiggy and Zomato coming and delivering. Similarly, collection is not a problem. Once you have that logistics engine to collect it, collection is not a problem. I've seen people doing it. But the startup who wants to start this, their main worry is not the logistics part. That can easily be managed.
Technology part.
Technology. Can they buy the cheapest or the single machine which can do this, or they have to put putting up a plant is 5-year.
Usually they have to put a grinder.
Correct.
The grinder has to be pelletized.
Correct.
So first you grind it and then you convert the thing. So I think 2-step process would be there in that. My guess.
Okay. I'll check it out. I just thought I'll check with you. Okay. Thank you.
Sir, can I ask one question?
Yeah, please go on, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, sir, one excellent presentation. There are 2 points, sir. If we have this local produce or like consumption of local produce or near local produce, it can, reduce both food loss and food waste,
Yeah.
like transportation costs, storage costs, refrigeration costs, energy costs, and also this greenhouse gas emission also, because less will go into the landfill.
Yes.
So overall, it can be cost competitive, and it could be a business model as well, and it can lead to a virtuous cycle leading to sustainability, because sustainability requires virtuous cycle.
Yes.
And second point is this that, as you rightly said, IT and AI use. It can actually help this unorganized sector, moving from an unorganized sector to a more organized sector, and
Absolutely,
having a lot of business models as well. Yeah. So, and
yeah.
awareness, I think awareness in the educational curriculum, like especially in the middle school, in social sciences and or civics subject, this could be introduced. I mean, as a awareness, food wastage affects everyone. As you said, 30% of the global population.
Yeah,
I mean,
it affects. Yes, one way. Yeah, the first. Let me answer the first point. The first point is a very valid point. We mentioned about the local thing. In fact, that is the bedrock of the circularity problem. If you want to make the thing circular, one of the things that we do is to go local. So automatically you're getting rid of that supply chain issue. See, the pandemic has shown people how bad it is if you are stuck with the supply chain issue.
yes.
Isn't it? Because all over the world, people have got stuck because of supply chain problems only. They're not able to send the product. The product is not there, and everything, and even their profitability and all is getting affected because they've been procuring from all sorts of places. The entire US have been procuring from China. If China there's not able to supply, then they're stuck. So some things like that they have realized now that it is no longer good always the time that to procure from them best quality or the least price. You have to be local. The local thing has got more value because of the fact that the uncertainties are getting less. Okay, so that's an excellent point. It's part of circularity thing is go local. You try to use it as much local. So that's an important criteria that you build in your decision making, along with price and quality. Is it local? It should also get some weightage. So that is one. Second thing, you talk about IT and AI. I don't have to say anything because they're all waiting for some more projects to start in areas, and therefore they will definitely get into it. It's a matter of time only, and there are already a lot of people getting into it in many ways. Okay. Yeah. What is the third part?
Like creating awareness is through education, middle school.
Yes, middle school. One thought there is a good thought, because actually it's easier to teach the adults through the children than the adults directly.
It's like catch them young.
No, not for the children. Children anyway learn, because when they grow up, they'll learn. Okay. Grow up means if they learn today, they may use it after 10 years.
Yes.
Because it's there in their mind, right? But these children, if you teach them, these children will go and tell the adults, why are you doing this? A plastic spoon you mentioned, right? So in plastic spoons, why are you using plastic spoon? The question may be raised by the child, not by the adult.
Yeah.
Why are you using it when it is banned? Something like that. Why don't you use the wooden stuff?
Yeah, it could be part of social science or civics.
It is. Yeah. It is definitely helpful, though we can't expect them to do any change, but they can be helpful.
Yes.
They can be useful for nudging around here and there.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Sure.
Thank you for your excellent initiative, also personal initiative in this subject. Thank you, sir.
Gopi, I want to ask a question.
Yes, please.
Yeah,
Yeah.
please go on. Please go on.
Yes, my name is Subramanian. Actually, I just wanted to make an observation. See, for some years now, we've been having this clean city initiative. And I don't know how much of you all are aware, a town like Indore has been getting a clean city award for the last 6 years in a row. And Indore is a place which it is really clean. I mean, it's quite surprising, but it is clean. I mean, you can't find so many sweepers, etc., on the road as you find in Indore in any other place. That said, I was just wondering at a macro level, would it be, would a town like Indore, for example, be ripe to take this transition? Because they segregate waste, there are landfills. If this kind of a concept is kind of thrown at them, this would be a kind of, the circularity will appeal to them. Just food for thought. I mean, not a question actually.
Yeah. It could be. Yeah, it could be. It could be definitely a point here. They would definitely. I mean, it will appeal to, at the higher level, at the macro level, the points of policy and points of where you can address it are many. So it becomes a bit more difficult to do it compared to the micro level. But there would be people who are interested. The easier way there is if it comes from top down.
Yes. Yeah.
It's not happening, but that's the easier way. If it's top down, meaning you don't have to do any of these things, automatically comes in, But top down is not happening because of various reasons, because there's no priority for this compared to other things and all that. But if it is not top down, then you got to go through all this rigmarole of getting all these people across and getting them together to do it.
I feel, towns which are better, I mean, cities which have been recognized over a period of time now, and they're really willing to change, would be more eager. It is easy to sell to them than maybe a town which is placed at 100 or whatever in that scale of.
Yeah, it's a good point. They could be good candidates for trying out. Instead of looking at the whole thing, you look at cities or towns.
Yes, thank you. And Indore has a very good eating culture, cow gullies and chappan bhog and all that stuff they have there. So it could be. I do not know how much. If someone is interested, they can take a call. Thank you.
Sure.
So can we have Major Narayanan speak a few words, please? So your friend, Mr. Major Narayanan, come in.
Yeah, thank you. Lot of interesting stuff. Yeah. Highly practical and very insightful, I should say. I never knew that. I only knew the other side of distinguished Toastmaster Raju. I never knew what is his passion. Only now I realize there's plenty of food that has been wasted, and there are so creative ways that it will be put to better use.
Yeah,
I thoroughly enjoyed the session, though I joined a bit late, and whatever I missed, I'll be able to watch it on the recording. I'll be watching, and I endorse the views of Mr. Subramaniam, who just spoke earlier about Indore.
Yeah,
I've also been in Indore, and I'd spent I'd done a lot of courses in the infantry school Mau, which is exactly 20 kilometers from Indore. Indore I found to be a very, very clean city. One of the cleanest cities I've visited in India. And I also echo his view. And I had a lot of personal takeaways, especially when we organize functions like marriage or any other functions where a lot of food gets wasted. And following all this small tidbits of ideas, we'll be able to ensure that it reaches the place where it's supposed to be, minimize the wastage. And if at all there's any wastage, that could be put to better use. Yeah. I thoroughly enjoyed the session. Thanks for Mr. Gopi and for the organizers for having put in a lot of efforts to conduct this meeting fairly regularly with consistency, and you've been able to get a lot of good speakers. Thank you, Toastmaster Raju also. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
NSM, sir. NSM, sir.
Good afternoon to all of you, and thanks to Narsi, and thanks for his excellent talk on this food waste. It's the need of the hour, and I'm really happy about. And certainly, I mean, right from the childhood, we should be making this as a habit to get going about. We are doing it in tits and bits, and I'm sure as a mass movement, we'll have to make it a better way. Thanks once again, Raju, for all your wonderful time, and I learned a lot all through the things. Thanks, Gopi, for organizing this.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Anyone else has a question? Ananta Padmanabhan.
Sir, I am Ananta Padmanabhan from Coimbatore, and I really enjoyed listening to him. And we think that we know many things, but we really we know, but we don't practice it. So people like us conduct a lot of meetings, conduct a lot of conferences, organize food during the conferences, and it is sad to see that food gets wasted. And food is a very important aspect of our life, and to understand that 30% of the food which we produce is wasted. My point is, why produce to produce waste? And I think that is very, very important. We need not produce to produce waste. I think we need to produce to what we need to consume. And it was an excellent presentation, and I look forward for many such presentations in the future. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Sir, Santanam, sir, would you like to add a few words, sir? Okay, I think we are done, sir. Anyone else has a question, or anybody else wants to add something?
This is Rajashekaran from Faridabad. I don't have any question and all. I just want to say very precisely the essence of this is, see, normally in India, we all know the cultural side or the charity side of the food waste. We are very conscious of it, most of the Indians. The business side of the food waste is very well brought in this presentation, and particularly in the entrepreneurs and the youngsters would get a lot of benefit out of this talk. It was a wonderful talk. It went on nicely. Knowing Narsi, of course, is hard work, and essence comes into it. And we enjoyed the whole lot. And thanks a lot for organizing such a wonderful webinar. It gives a lot of clues for youngsters. That much I can say. Wonderful session. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else wants to add something?
Just one in a lighter vein, he had said that the eyes, if you make food attractive and lesser than the stomach, it is more wastage. So basically, whatever is eye-catching in this Instagram age, it should be paid actually. It should never be offered free, or take as much as possible in a tray or something like that. So again, it's in a lighter vein, but it's a very nice way of putting it. It's basically a tussle between eye and stomach. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gopi, just one small thing only. There was a question about how the people do segregation. In fact, in our colony in Padur, the outskirts of Chennai, we are doing for the last 2 to 3 years or so segregation. We taught not only the housewives and the people, also the students and the kids, so that then they've been involved in this entire exercise. What they called as a ICT, that is information, then communication and training. All three are equally important for making this effective. And there is a lady by name Priyadarshini, and she has been doing this segregation of waste right from the source. After that, they do all the manuring and doing rest of things. But they are making good amount of money. If somebody is interested, I can share her number. Maybe they can talk to her also. It's a great effort how people are doing it about. Idea is that zero landfill. That's a motive by which our entire society in this area, we try to work on it.
Sir, I am Ananthapadram. I wanted to make one point which I read somewhere in one of the journals. It seems in Canada there is one restaurant. In that restaurant, if they charge about $5 for a lunch, and if you carry an empty plate and leave it, that means they give you a refund of $1.
Yeah. There are many such restaurants around the world now.
Yep.
They motivate you in different ways. Some places they demotivate you by asking to pay more.
Yeah, I think
It's also there. It's also there.
that is important. That is important.
It's there.
Thank
So
you, sir.
different ways are there of addressing the issues.
Issues. Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I have a question. Can I ask?
Yeah, please.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to know, like, how can countries integrate different levels of governments and foster public-private partnerships and to take care of the food losses or something of that kind? Is there any way that we can do it?
Sorry, how can countries
integrate different levels of governments and foster public-private partnership to evidence or the evidence-based targets? We know that it's been wasted here, there, or we can give, for example, to Somalia, if you want to give food to them, like how can we integrate in that kind of a thing?
Yes, so here you need to have some structure from the government of doing that. If in terms of public-private partnership itself is a difficult thing to do. It's not so easy. It's not so well accepted in our thing so well, and around the world also they have not found it always very successful. Some places like Australia and all, they've tried it for long, and some places they've succeeded, some places they've, I'm talking about not these type of projects, but other types of projects, road projects and all that, they have not. So when you see take into account that public private partnership, it has to be done, I think, as of now in India, in case to case level only, because there is no such body available unless there is something coming from top down. If there's nothing coming from top down, the government, so then what is happening is that you have a municipality, which is, you can say, as a public enterprise, public part of it, and there's a private party who wants to do it. So how do these two work together? It's possible, it's working. In some places it's working. So it has to be done as case to case basis. There cannot be a single thing for everyone.
Okay, got it. So I have one more thing.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, whatever it is, like we should start from home if we practice, or at the level of school. So what do you think, what role does education play in reducing food loss and waste? How can we implement at that level itself?
Education, where in the school?
Yes. For the kids, school, if they understand, they are the future, right?
School is so long as you have including it as part of curriculum, it will be there. It's not difficult to include it in part of curriculum, so long as it's there in part of your syllabus, So in cases where it's not mandatory to follow a particular syllabus, just an example I'm saying, some classes do not have that mandatory requirement of following a particular syllabus. If I'm right, maybe at the board level or 11th standard, 12th standard, you don't have much of choice of what you get to teach. Okay, 10th standard or 11th, or from 9th onwards, you don't get an option to teach whatever you want. But at the middle school level, I think the options are pretty much left to the school to teach what they want. So there it can be introduced.
Yeah, we introduce food pyramids. Why don't we introduce food wastage hierarchy also? I mean, is that possible?
It is possible.
Yeah. Okay.
It is definitely possible, because they don't have any constraint in saying that this has to be a minimum syllabus. If they have their own syllabus, then it's a matter of the teacher doing it. That's all. Teacher and the people in the school, the principal and all doing it, So, definitely possible. It is happening also. In many cases, newer concepts are coming in. So they include that.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
I think we come to the close of the session, sir.
Okay.
So thank you very much for being with us on Sunday morning, sir.
Sure. Thank you. I liked it. I like the interaction a lot, and I'm very happy that we got to talk. Oftentimes, we don't get much time to have a question answer session. In many of the webinars I do, I get only 5 minutes, and I'm not able to even talk to them easily. This is more or less like a physical meeting. This is my observation, more or less like a physical meeting, because we got enough time to talk about, and you can go back and forth also, and some people can come back with a question after some time. All that is possible. Otherwise, you'll be very restricted. 2 or 3 questions are there, and after that, nothing. So,
hey, Narsi, one small thing. Tell some of our friends also to give their experience.
Sorry?
Tell some of our REC friends also to join such things and give their experience.
Yes, of course. That I'll coordinate with Gopi on that.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Right then. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.